All right, good morning, guys. Should just finish up the do not question. In your own words, explain what classical conditioning is and provide examples. So, if you remember in the last lesson, we discussed how classical conditioning, this idea of pairing stuff that was, neutral stimuli with things that were naturally occurring stimuli or unconditioned stimuli, and trying to get people to essentially react or to train or to, I guess, in some ways manipulate their response, whether it be their automatic reactions or their choice actions based on unconditioned stimuli. Based on the conditioned stimuli, excuse me. So that whole process we talked about, Pavlov's dog and all that, that entire process, that's what you're kind of explaining kind of what it was in your own words. So whatever you guys have, just make sure it's about 4 to 5 sentences and make sure you get it written down. All right, so we're going to continue our unit on learning, and like I said, eventually memory today. We're just going to discuss a couple different types of learning, and we're going to get a little bit deeper into it and discuss maybe some things that are learning, but maybe not necessarily things that we associate everyday things with learning. Associate our everyday types of learning that we think about with when we think about this sort of thing. So, first thing we're going to discuss is something called reflexes. And I'm sure all you are pretty familiar with this, but for these purposes, we're still going to go over it anyways. So, first off, we have reflexes. Unlearned reactions to stimuli. Unlearned reactions to stimuli. So if you think of reflexes, this is like, okay, when you're 5 years old and you don't quite, or maybe not 5, maybe like you're still young, still learning things, and you put your hand on a stove for the first time, and the stove's on. What's your first reaction? Ow! Nobody has to teach you how to. Nobody has to teach you that. Hey, you should probably pull your hand back. That is your instant reaction. That is your reflex. Nobody has to teach you to do that. Stuff like that. So things that nobody has to teach you to do, but okay, you just kind of inherently know how to do it. In a way, your body almost takes care of you. Okay, your body senses that pain, and your body tells you don't do that. So it's almost your body's kind of teaches you a lesson. I guess if you want to take it down that road, but nobody has to go outside and say, hey, don't touch that hot stove. You learn pretty quickly, hey, don't do that. Next up, we have something called observational learning. So this is probably the most common form of learning, where you might think of it as imitation or modeling. It's kind of all the same thing. Learning that occurs when a person observes and then imitates behavior. So yes, quite literally, monkey see, monkey do. Like I see somebody playing football and never played before. How do I kind of learn? Okay, I watch I kind of watch and see how they do it. And I go try to imitate that behavior. I try to, okay, he's throwing the ball. Okay, I'm going to give it a try. Or I try to catch it, based on what I'm seeing from him. This is like one of the most basic forms of learning, because you think of, a small child still crawling around, maybe walking a little bit. How do they learn what is the right thing to do? They watch other people around them. They listen to other people around them. They're doing this, I'm going to do this. They're going to say this, I'm going to say this. So, once again, observational learning, imitation, modeling, monkey see, monkey do. Next up, we have something a little bit different. This is called learned helplessness. So this kind of shies away from the normal stuff we've talked about so far and kind of goes to a different path. So learned helplessness, a mental state in which an organism becomes unable or unwilling to attempt to avoid negative circumstances based on past failures. So there's a little bit to unpack there. So a mental state in which an organism becomes unable or unwilling to attempt negative circumstances. So basically saying I'm in the state to where I know I'm in a bad situation. I'm in a negative circumstance. But either I'm saying, hey, I'm just choosing not to get out of it, or like I'm just mentally incapable of getting out of it. Like either I've gotten to the point where I'm just deliberately choosing, why do I even bother trying to get out of it? It's not going to change anyway. And so it gets to a point, where they don't even bother based on those past failures. So, think of this like in an everyday life situation. If you, say whatever circumstance you're in, say, life is hard, you have tough circumstances, and you've tried to get out, you've tried to do something better, and you just failed over and over again. You just constant failure, constant just met with negativity. Eventually, you're going to get to a point of saying, why bother? It doesn't matter anyway. I'm not going to, do better. I'm just going to sit here and suck it up. I'm going to just have to deal with it then, I guess. So you think of it like in a lab setting where it's like, they've actually done tests where it's like you might have a rat and say in a cage. And so they would maybe shock the rat a little bit. And so their first reaction is, okay, the rat runs away, it tries to get away, it tries to escape from it. But what they've seen over the course of time, if they continue to do this, then the rat essentially gets to this point of learned helplessness, where it doesn't even bother trying to escape because it's gotten to that point of, hey, why bother? I've decided that I cannot get out of this. There's no way to do it. There's no way to get out of it. So it's kind of sad to think about, but can you think of anybody that you know that's kind of ever been in that situation where the first reaction, when you tell them, hey, well, why don't you try to fix that situation? Why don't you try to do something better? And it doesn't matter anyway. It's never going to happen. That kind of along the same lines. And yes, it's a pretty sad thing, but it's a reality. Some people do get in this mindset. So, once again, learned helplessness. Mental state in which an organism becomes unable or unwilling to attempt to avoid negative circumstances based on or because of those past failures or experiences. And finally, we get down to another one. Brought up, coined by a guy by the name of B.F. Skinner. Something known as operant conditioning. A form of learning in which the consequences of the behavior changes the likelihood of those behaviors' occurrence. So, it seems like there's a little bit to unpack there, but in all honesty, I pretty much guarantee everybody that's watching this video knows exactly what this is, or probably experiences this in some way on a daily basis. One more time. A form of learning in which the consequences of the behavior changes the likelihood of that behavior's occurrence. You notice down here in little bullet points, it deals with reward and punishment. So, it's basically me trying to alter your behavior by either offering you some kind of reward, like, hey, if you do this, I'll give you 20 bucks. Or if they say, hey, better go do this, or I'm going to punch you in the face. So, I'm trying to alter your behavior. I'm trying to teach you something based on rewards and punishments. So if you think like, okay, in a classroom setting, what is your, what reward am I trying to offer you for saying, hey, get your work done, come to class, do what you're supposed to do. Your reward is a good grade. Your reward is that high school diploma, whatever it may be. Then, at the same time, you have negative circumstances where it said, hey, if you run the class and are acting a fool, you will receive this punishment. You will be, sent home. You will be suspended, whatever it may be. So, operant conditioning. Probably, first one we talk about reflexes, something you don't have to be taught. This one is probably, arguably one of the most common, or at least the ones that we use the most often, because we're constantly in that situation, reward and punishment. We make decisions based off, hey, is the outcome going to be good for us or is it going to be bad for us, and so on and so forth. So, pretty straightforward, pretty simple. You guys need to take a second, pause the video, finish getting these written down. Then, on a separate sheet, your exit slip for the day. So we've talked about a few different types of learning, both today and yesterday. So which of these do you feel is the most powerful? Which of these types of learning do you think really sticks with a person the most that we've discussed so far? Which one do you think, okay, if I'm trying to teach somebody something, or if I'm trying to get them to act a certain way or think a certain way, which of these methods that we've discussed do you think is the most effective? And tell me why. In about 4 or 5 sentences. So, if you guys have any questions, feel free to write something in the comment section below, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can, or shoot me an email. Until then, see you next time.